Hello. Attack him where he's unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. I never thought of Roy Nelson as one of the best fighters. I've never physically looked anything like him, and I do not know if we have a lot in common. Nonetheless, though, he's always been a fighter that I've admired. Despite being underestimated for much of his career and even laughed at for the way he looked, the man would embrace it all and just continue to do his thing. This is a quality I appreciate in people. Not trying to conform to an image, but owning who they are and doing their best with what they have been given. After all, we have all been dealt unique cards, and how are we supposed to play them if we refuse to acknowledge them? This in turn had everyone I knew, including me, talking about him. He was hilarious. He just didn't care, concussing grown men who appeared to have the physical advantage one haymaker at a time. That's probably why he was so strong in the first place. He was underestimated based upon his appearance. We were so quick to judge. Inspired by the Olympians, maybe Dragon Ball Z, this aesthetic of huge muscles overall, we correlated strength with large muscle retention and thought that strength gave an innate advantage. Thus, when we looked at Roy, an average, heavy-looking man, no one would have thought he could have been so dangerous. We were left wondering as to why he was. And there was an excitement to that. That's why I believe everyone was talking about him. There are instances where huge muscles, when built properly, give an inherent advantage, but Roy played his cards differently. He was a man who didn't use huge muscles, but instead his fat to smash through his opponents. Let's actually take a closer glance at this. Here's how Roy used his gut or heavyweight mass to increase his punching power. Whenever he'd step forward, it would generate momentum or kinetic energy. He then load that kinetic energy into the stretchy portion of the muscle, his fascia. Then, as his arm was about to sling out like a slingshot, he'd pivot into his opponent, harnessing all that kinetic energy onto a single point on his opponent's face. If you think about it, everyone always knew when Roy was coming in. His movements were big and telegraphed, but as he loaded kinetic energy into his fascia, then pivoted all that energy into his opponent's face, his fist was often too fast and the gloves too small for them to deal with. Here, versus much bigger opponent, Stefan Struve, Roy slips versus opponent's lead hand post, and over the top comes an overhand. Look at the mechanics of this. The heavyweight, Roy Nelson, generating force as his gut, or heavyweight mass, moves forward. This momentum or kinetic energy loads into his arm, then he pivots that kinetic energy into his opponent to maximize the force. This is why he hit so hard. It wasn't huge muscles and or explosive fast twitch fibers that made him devastating. It was technique that best harnessed his mass. In this instance, his gut or high body fat percentage. Now, Roy was a man who leveraged his strengths uniquely. Often a shot like this would get intercepted as it is telegraphed and predictable, but Roy was very lucky to be blessed with such a strong chin, so even if he ate the shot coming forward, shot for shot, he would probably win the exchange. And the punch paired with the small gloves and speed was often too much to deal with. Speed, technique maximizing force with his gut, or mass acting as a catalyst, effectively using his unique strengths, his durability, and high body fat percentage to smash his opponents off. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. Miyamoto Musashi. Roy Nelson goes to show that you don't have to fit a box to be effective. You can be you. That, though, is a matter of if you're willing to be you, which may seem simple, but it's being something you have to figure out for yourself in a world where people are constantly telling you who you are to be. Understanding that simple is often the hardest thing to achieve regardless of your discipline. That's why I always truly admired Roy Nelson. Why, for me, he was always a very special athlete, despite what everyone else thought of him. If you'd like more from me, please subscribe. That's definitely great for the channel. Smash that like button if you enjoyed. It's good karma. And until next time, peace.